Sandbox MMA fans, it's the UFC 305 post-fight matchmaking video where I'm matchmaking everyone from the fight card that I think is worthy of being matched up. Mostly winners on the card. There's a couple losers from the main card. I actually might have matchmaked every loser from the main card, but they're people that I want to see fighting soon, so I want to see who they're going to fight. I matchmade them for everyone. So with that, just absolutely awful intro to the video, completely underway. Let's just get right to it. Right in the prelims. First fight of the night, Jesus Aguilar got a good submission win over Stuart Nickel. Ray Saruya, young up-and-coming guy. They're probably in similar spots in the rankings. I think Jesus Aguilar's like 10-2 now. Ray Saruya's 9-0. This is a good matchup to make on the early prelims of a pay-per-view or a fight night. Jesus Aguilar, Ray Saruya. Do this on the same fight card that you have Kaya Sakura fighting. No idea when he's going to actually fight, but if you do that on the same fight card, it'll be sick. Next up, Song Kanong beat the piss out of Ricky Glenn, and I want to see him fighting Oban Elliott. Oban Elliott, coming off of a recent win at UFC 304, deserves a jump up in the rankings. Song Kanong, good win over Ricky Glenn. You have two guys coming off 2 wins in a row now. Let's have them fight each other. I think it would be a good matchup to make in that welterweight division. You can do this. Again, Song Kanong didn't take much damage. A January fight night, December fight night, maybe even the last one before the year on December 14th. We'll see if Song can make that quick turnaround, but he didn't take much damage, and Oban Elliott also fought at the end of July, so it's been a little bit now. Been 3 weeks, 4 weeks since. Next up on the card, Tom Nolan. Want to see him fighting Austin Hubbard. It's a decent jump up in competition for him. Nothing crazy, but someone that's going to pose a little bit more of a grappling threat and is a little bit bigger than the people that he's been fighting. He's fought a couple of short dudes that have just been able to pack a power punch somehow, but Tom Nolan got a good win over Alex Reyes. Let's test him. Let's get him in there in like March or April, though. I don't want to see this guy rushing. I want to see him working in the gym, working on his skills, give him 6-7 months off, have him come back, and I guess that's February, March. Have him fight Austin Hubbard on a fight night around then, and hopefully it's not a fucking Apex card, because Apex sucks, but yeah, do this in front of a crowd. We should be going to places around the world, though. We should be going to Prague. We should be going to the Czech Republic. We should be going to I know we're already going to France and England, but let's go to Japan. Like, let's go to Germany. Let's go to all these other countries. Like, it's just better to be in front of a crowd. Even the shit fights end up getting pumped up in front of a crowd. So, Tom Nolan, Austin Hubbard, let's get him on a fight night sometime in February and March, and hopefully we're fully out of the Apex by then. Next up on the card, Jack Jenkins, dominant win over Herbert Burns. Let's get him some competition, and he made this one easy for me. He's ready to turn around quick, and Gavin Tucker on the Vancouver card on November 2nd or something like that. I think that's a great fight to make. It's a good jump up in competition for him. Gavin Tucker, I think, is coming off his loss to Diego Lopez most recently, so he's been out for a year. Jack Jenkins, welcome him into a fight in Vancouver. It's home turf for Gavin Tucker. Gavin Tucker's a Canadian. Jack Jenkins called it out. Makes every sense in the world to me, or every bit of sense in the world to me. So, we move on to my future wife, Luana Santos. Let's give her a layup, Teresa Bleda. She helped the company a lot by stepping up for Teresa Bleda on short notice to fight Casey O'Neill across the world. Lost convincingly. Let's give her the Teresa Bleda fight. Let's get Luana Santos back in the win column before she can start looking up at those rankings again soon. And I think she can beat Teresa Bleda, so I think it's a good matchup to make, and we're going to make things easy for my future wife. Want her to keep that face pretty. And next up is Casey O'Neill. Good win, ranked 15 in the flyweight division. Let's say she fights number 14, also coming off a recent win. Jasmine Jasdovicius just had a win at the UFC Denver card about 2 months ago now. Good performance from her. Good performance from Casey O'Neill. 14 and 15 ranked at flyweight. Let's get some of these flyweights starting to rack up some wins before they start moving up the division. Casey O'Neill, Jasmine Jasdovicius. You can do both these fights on the same card sometime around January, February, a fight night around there. I usually like to see people turn around on 4 or 5 months' notice. If they can do quicker and they didn't take any damage, do quicker. But these two went 3 rounds. Can see them taking a little bit of time off. Josh Kulabau got robbed. Fight Bill Algeo. Fight him in front of a crowd before the end of the year. If you can do this on the, UFC 310 prelims, you're going to get yourself a big name. I think he's going to get a win over Algeo. But even if not, then Algeo gets a win, and he's good on the mic after shit. So, Josh Kulabau, Bill Algeo, both featherweights outside the rankings, coming off losses. Let's get them fighting each other, see who can win, and then they can start looking upwards again. I think Josh Kulabau got robbed, but regardless, he had two really difficult fights in a row, and I think this Bill Algeo one, while it is, in terms of a veteran presence in the octagon, a little bit of a step up, I don't think skill-wise it is. I think Ricardo Ramos is better than Bill Algeo. I also think that Danny Silva is better than Bill Algeo. So let's do Josh Kulabau versus Bill Algeo, see how it turns out. Do this one, UFC 310 prelims. If not, do it on like the December 14th fight night card, the last one of the year. Prelims, make it happen. Ricardo Ramos got a robbery win over Josh Kulabau. This is a sick fight. It hasn't happened yet. Two dudes that have been in the UFC for a very long time. Doo Ho Choi versus Ricardo Ramos. Sick fight to make. Two dudes that are going to hopefully strike most of the time. I think Ricardo Ramos may shoot some takedowns, but we saw Doo Ho Choi was able to kind of stuff those takedowns in his last fight against C-Rod. Let's go with Ricardo Ramos, Doo Ho Choi. Let's do this the first fight night of the year in January. You can put it on the main card. You can honestly put this on the main card of a fight night. Maybe the prelim headliner is what I'd prefer, but I know how the UFC's cooking up fights now. They're kind of just throwing shit on a card and seeing if you like it or not. And Doo Ho Choi, marketable. Again, not this crazy marketable guy. He was, but now, obviously, since his time off, he's come down to the face of the earth, I guess, in terms of popularity. Ricardo Ramos has a couple of highlight finishes. You can make a good little promo for this. You should do this on a January card. Open up the main card, you can do it. I'd prefer if it was a prelim headliner, but we'll see what the UFC does. Sometime in January on a fight night, let's make it happen. Junior Tafa stinks. Give him Thomas Peterson. He wants to fucking try and fight people after the fight. Give him someone that's literally going to shoot takedowns on him the whole time. See how he can hold up. If he can't hold up, then he doesn't deserve to be in the UFC. Junior Tafa versus Thomas Peterson. Now, if Junior Tafa went on, lost to Walter Walker, shook his hand after, said, hey, good win, and walked away, I'd be probably giving him a striker here, someone that he can knock out. But fuck him. The disrespect that he showed after the fight was insane. Junior Tafa, Thomas Peterson, UFC 312 in February. Do it on the early prelims because no one gives a fuck about these two fighters. I know everyone wants to act like because his name is Tafa, he's a sick fighter. Neither of the Tafas are good, so get that shit out of your head. We're going to move on. UFC 312 early prelims. Thomas Peterson, Junior Tafa. Next up, Walter Walker. Big win, impressive win. Looks like he's taking his career very seriously. He's getting takedowns when he needs them. He's going for submissions in the last 15 seconds of the fight, which I think was 15 seconds of the round, which I think was very intelligent in case Junior Tafa was able to roll out of it and get to the feet. Kept himself safe in that regard. Mo Usman. Let's have him kill the Usman hype train once and for all. I don't think there's anything Mo Usman can do to really hurt Walter Walker. I don't think that Mo Usman's going to be able to out-wrestle Walter Walker. I'd be interested to see how this one goes down. A battle of two brothers, Johnny Walker's brother and Kamaru Usman's brother. I reckon that Walter Walker could have a career here in the UFC that could be successful if he can find a way to string together some wins here, if he keeps fighting intelligently and takes his career seriously. Heavyweight's not good. It's not. And I think he can find his way into the rankings at some point. So Walter Walker, Muhammad Usman, let's get him in that fight. Do this one. Again, I'm cool at the end of the year. If you do an early prelim on UFC 310, I am very okay with that. You have two dudes in the heavyweight division that, again, have names because of their brothers. You can put them on the card. Make it happen. Early prelim. The main card for UFC 305, we're matching up the Leech, who got just beat up by Pratis, with someone who can't do any damage to him, and it's Michael Chiesa. Even if he gets choked out, he gets choked out. It is what it is. But he's not taking damage. I don't want him taking punch damage. Michael Chiesa, Li Jingliang. Let's take some time off. Again, Leech got knocked out brutally. I want him to take a couple months off here. Not looking to come back before 2025. Michael Chiesa is definitely okay with that because he's extremely inactive. UFC 313 in March. I think it's going to be early March. We usually do 2 cards in March. So early March, UFC 313. Leech versus Chiesa. Do this as a prelim headliner. Do this as a prelim co-headliner. Make it happen. Chiesa, Li Jingliang. Chiesa's coming off a win at welterweight over Tony Ferguson, which is not impressive. The Leech has a name. Get him in there. And we're moving on to Carlos Pratis. Chaos Williams. Now, I know that he said he wanted one more fight before the rankings, and I'm inclined to give him that. I'm very inclined to give him that. If he can take a jump in the rankings, it's Luque. That's going to be the fight that he takes that he can win and get into the rankings. I feel very comfortable about that. But he wants one more fight, maybe where he can be a heavy favorite, get a good big knockout win, get a performance bonus, and then go up to fight in the rankings, make sure he's fully trained and ready. I'm cool with the Chaos Williams fight, and this dude's crazy active. Have him on MSG. Chaos Williams, Carlos Prates, MSG prelim headliner. I know I had Gene Silva on that card, but you can put Prates on there as well. It's a sick fight to make. Carlos Prates, Chaos Williams, prelim headliner, prelim co-headliner to Gene Silva, Nate Landwehr on UFC 309. Make it happen. I want to see it. Prates, Chaos Williams, this is danger. Both these guys are going to be striking. You have some dude that swings wildly and has power like Chaos Williams, and then you have a very poised sniper with a lot of power in Carlos Prates. Match made in heaven. UFC 309 prelims. UFC 310 prelim headliner, something around there. Get them fighting this year. Tai Tuivasa on the card next. Waldo Cortez Acosta. Don't give him someone that's going to kill him. Waldo has a big right hand, but I don't think Waldo's knocking Tai out. And I don't think Waldo's technical enough to beat Tai Tuivasa. Like, he took down Rebels to Spain, no problem, but Tai has even better takedown defense than Rebels to Spain. Everyone has better takedown defense than Rebels to Spain, so I bet that Tai can stuff a couple of those takedowns. I bet he can hurt Waldo's legs with leg kicks. We're trying to get Tai a win here. That's the goal. Without giving him someone completely out of the rankings like Chris Barnett, who's fighting Waldo Cortez Acosta, I bet Waldo just beats Chris Barnett. And Tai's going to take the winner of that fight. I'm going Tai Tuivasa versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Do this on the February pay-per-view main card opener. Waldo Cortez Acosta, Tai Tuivasa. Again, Tai shouldn't be on a main card anymore because he's just not performing, but it's Tai Tuivasa. The UFC thinks they know what people like, and dude, like, they're just going to keep putting him on the main card because his name's Tai Tuivasa, and we're going to have to pay for fights that we don't really care as much to see anymore. So Tai versus Waldo Cortez Acosta, make it happen. Hopefully Tai gets a knockout, gets back in the win column, gets a couple wins, and then retires. So we're trying to get Tai wins here so we can retire in the sunset eventually. And we move on to Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Dude is sneaky beating people in the division right now and beating them, like, pretty fucking good. Shamil Gaziev, the elite of the elite in terms of prospects, guys. He may be a blob, but he's a monster. Anyway, Jairzinho stops him in the fourth round, I don't know, dude. One of those rounds in the middle where he gassed out, where Shamil gassed out because he was too fat and he was getting cardiac arrest in the octagon. Anyway, he also gets a win over Tai Tuivasa here. He's stacking up wins. We might be seeing a sneaky top 5 run from Jairzinho Rozenstruik here. So I say match him up with a dude that just won last week, Sergey Spivak. If he beats Spivak, he's looking at a top 5 opponent. His most recent loss was to Jailton Almeida, but before that he was getting a knockout win over like Dricus and Sakai, and he was getting wins. Lost to Almeida and then got 2 more wins. So give him the Sergey Spivak fight. See if he can defend some of those takedowns. See if he can defend any chokes that possibly go in, because Jailton Almeida's grappling is on another level compared to Sergey Spivak's. But make it happen. If he gets the win, he goes up into the top 5, and if Sergey Spivak gets the win, he also deserves his shot in the top 5. So this is, again, a top 5 contenders fight. You do this screams Apex main event to me. It really does, and I bet the UFC does an Apex main event, but I would like to see it on the main card of a pay-per-view as the opener. I'd like to see it as a co-main event for a stacked Apex or stacked like live fight night card. If you did Rozenstruik versus Spivak, and then you had like the person that I'm gonna match Dan Hooker up with, and then you had as the co-main like Steve Erceg in that, like, dude, that's, and then you have this is the feature fight, that works. But anyway, Spivak Rozenstruik, I'm not gonna ramble on much more about that. Vitaliy Gamrot, close loss. It was close, but he did lose, and that was the right decision to Dan Hooker. And I think he needs to fight the loser of the main event in France, Benoit Saint-Denis, Renato Moicano. Now, I'm one of the people that think Moicano's going to win this fight as a plus 200 underdog. I think he's going to win this fight, and I think he's going to break Benoit Saint-Denis. I think Saint-Denis is going to go after him with the striking. Renato's going to land a couple of straight shots. BSD goes in for the grappling, and I think Moicano's grappling is actually much better than Benoit Saint-Denis. Call me crazy, but I think we're going to see that in September. And you know what? If I'm wrong, you can call me whatever the fuck you want in the post-fight reactions when I beat myself into the ground. But I think Moicano's going to win. And you could do a Moicano versus Hooker matchup if he wins, but that's not what I matched up for Hooker because there's too many variables. Mateusz Gamrot fights the loser of BSD versus Renato Moicano. That's a main event of a fight night. That's a co-main event or a feature fight of a pay-per-view. I say if these guys are fighting at the end of September, you're going to take the rest of 2025 off, and then you're going to put this on a UFC 311 feature fight. You're going to put this as a UFC 311 co-main. You're going to put this as a main event of a fight night in January or February. Make it happen. BSD/Renato Moicano, the loser of that fight versus Mateusz Gamrot. Dan Hooker, big win. Solves the UFC's Gamrot problem, and he gets rewarded with a banger of a stylistic matchup. Rafael Fiziev. Hooker, Fiziev, make it happen. This fight speaks for itself. This fight fucking bangs. And a lot of people are saying, do the Gaethje fight, do the Gaethje fight. Don't want to see the Gaethje fight yet. I don't. I want Gaethje to take even more time off if he can. He just take the full year off after that knockout. I want to see Dan Hooker come back in February, January, fight on the pay-per-view. If you did Rafael Fiziev versus Dan Hooker as the main event of a fight night, then you did Gamrot versus BSD as the co-main event, and then you did Rosenstrike versus Spivak as the feature fight, you can do all of this and you just have a full top 3 fights in a January fight night in front of a crowd that will sell out a crowd. So do Dan Hooker, Rafael Fiziev. I want it 5 rounds, so I want it as a main event of a fight night. Make it happen. This fight would be absolutely legendary. Next up on the card was Steve Erceg losing to Kai Kara France, and we're getting Steve Erceg a win here. Alex Perez. Alex Perez got hurt against Tatsuro Taira in June? I want to say it was June 22nd? June 15th, my buddy Chris's birthday. Shout out Chris Rich. Birthday, I meant wedding. Chris's birthday, September 10th. I know that. Steve Erceg, Alex Perez. Alex Perez got hurt on June 15th. I want Steve Erceg after that knockout to take time off. He's young, get his chin refreshed, continue to go working in the kitchen over there, and come back and fight in February or March when, Perez is probably ready after that. Maybe even April. Take some time off. Make this like the co-main event of a fight night. Make this the, feature fight or the main card opener of a pay-per-view. Steve Erceg, Alex Perez. This makes all the sense in the world. I think they'll be on similar timelines too. I do. Erceg fought 2 months after Perez. Perez got a bad injury. Steve Erceg got brutally knocked out. Make it happen. Erceg, Perez, March, fight night, main card opener of a pay-per-view in March, something like that. And then Kai Kara France. Big win. Big win over Steve Erceg. He gets a title shot. Tell me who else deserves it. Albazi for robbing Kai Kara France? No. Everyone knows that Kai Kara France won that fight. So Kai Kara France has beaten everyone except for Moreno. Because he beats Albazi in his last fight. Now he beats Steve Erceg, who just contended for the title and debatably beat Pantoja, who I think beat Pantoja after rewatching the fight, literally this week. I was saying Pantoja won the fight from May up until last week. Then I rewatched the fight. Erceg won 2, 3, and 4 off of damage. 5 I still give to Pantoja. Think that he did enough on the ground to consider it damage, whereas control time actually was factored. But Kai beats Erceg by knockout in the first round. Kai beats Amir Albazi by a 5-round decision and gets robbed. That's the number 3 contender, that's the number 7 contender, but really the champion. So Kai Kara France, Alessandro Pantoja, UFC 310, co-main event. Hopefully they can do Bilal Shavkat as the main event. If not, make this the main event. I'm fine with it. You just got to stack the goddamn card. So Kai Kara France, Alessandro Pantoja, UFC 310, either the main event or the co-main event. Next up on the card, Israel Adesanya. I think he's going to have a tough time finding motivation to go through the ringer at 185 again. Because now you're looking at down the barrel at a third fight with Whitaker, which I bet doesn't impress him unless it's for a title. You're looking at a rematch with Duplessis, but that only comes if he wins 2 fights. It has to be 2 fights. You're looking at Allen and Imavov, who I don't know if that gets him out of bed in the morning. You're looking at a Cannonier rematch. That doesn't get him out of bed in the morning. He's not going to want to fight down against a Kyle Bahalio, who's a defender. Kyle Bahalio, who's a contender, or a Michel Pereira, or an or Anthony Hernandez, who's a contender. He's not going to want those. So I think he might want a Strickland rematch, but Strickland's going to We're going to get to Strickland in literally a second. Spoiler alert. But go up to 205. Take 6 months, bulk up, go up to 205, fight Yuri Prochazka. This is a sick fight. Yuri Prochazka versus Israel Adesanya. I reckon Izzy can stuff Yuri's takedowns, and it'll be fighting on the feet. And I think it would be a sick fight, because Yuri's going to go in, and I think he's just going to get leg kicked a couple of times and be like, oh, it's not going to hurt that much, and Izzy's going to start timing counters, and then it's going to be a real scrap. Israel Adesanya, Yuri Prochazka, I think that can get Israel Adesanya out of bed in the morning and say, all right, I'm going to do this. And honestly, he gets a win over Yuri Prochazka. He already has a win over Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira's fucking cleaning out the division. When he knocks out Roundtree in September, and then he gets a Ankalaev fight, or Rakic fight, whoever wins that fight, which I think it's going to be Rakic in October, the winner of that fight gets Pereira next. And then Izzy gets to fight Yuri Prochazka in February, which is probably going to be a month or two around the time when Pereira is going to fight the winner of Rakic versus Ankalaev. They'll probably fight in like March or April. Then Izzy's next for the Pereira fight, and there's no one else that's going to tell him anything about it because that's their trilogy in MMA. So, Yuri Prochazka, Israel Adesanya, 5-round co-main event for UFC 312 in February. Sick fight to make it happen, and now we go to what we all knew was happening. Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland. Main pay-per-view, main event, January, UFC 311 again. That's what I'm saying. They main evented together in January to start the year last year. They're going to do it again this year. Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland, UFC 311, main event. Sean has been told by Dana that he's getting the fight. Sean will sit out for the fight. Dricus, I think, will take the fight because it's winnable. He's going to say that Whitaker deserves it more and everything, but I think he takes a Sean Strickland fight because I think he knows in his heart of hearts that he's going to beat Strickland the second time, clearly, and by finish. I think he will. So I'm going Dricus versus Strickland. I think it's the fight to make. It's going to sell a lot of pay-per-views. 311 in January, the main event. Make it happen. This was the UFC 305 post-fight matchmaking. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like and subscribe. And if you got better matchups to make, leave a comment. Thank you again for watching. Until next time.